Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to the Sci-Fi Academia YouTube channel. Today, the Voyager episode Projections, which has great themes of what is reality, what does it mean to be a person, but does it live up to these themes, and what does the Wizard of Oz or Andrew Tate have to do with this episode? All that and so much more today on the Sci-Fi Academia channel. Just remember to stay tuned till the end of the video to see the philosophy and moral of the story. And if you've seen this episode of Voyager before, leave a comment. What did you think of it?
This episode opens with the Doctor being activated in a dimly lit sickbay, which paints an interesting mystery as the Doctor asks, "Who is currently in charge of the ship?" To which the ship replies, "It is currently empty. There's no humans aboard the Voyager." And after the theme music, we see the Doctor trying to get to the bottom of where everybody is. The computer says the rest of the crew is no longer on the ship. It's not too long before B'Elanna Torres shows up, but why is the ship not registering that she's there?
What's wrong?
This tricorder isn't registering your life signs. This one isn't working either.
B'Elanna says that the ship was attacked by the Kazon and the crew is now being held captive. She also says that they created holo-emitters and put them throughout the ship so that the Doctor can be sent to the bridge of Voyager to help Captain Janeway, which he normally wouldn't be able to do as he is a hologram. He's usually stuck in sickbay. He usually can't leave sickbay. And after the Doctor finds Janeway, we hear the voice of one of my least favorite characters on this show, Neelix. Neelix says that he needs help in the mess hall, but Janeway wouldn't be able to get there in time. So she transfers the Doctor to the mess hall, where he sees Neelix in the middle of a food fight with a Kazon. We get a fun joke where Neelix thinks that he's been injured and is bleeding out, when in reality it's just tomato sauce.
Am I going to die?
Not unless you're allergic to tomatoes.
But then Neelix realizes something odd. He realizes that the Doctor's bleeding, and this isn't tomato sauce. This is actually the Doctor's blood, which is weird because the Doctor, obviously being a hologram, wasn't programmed to bleed. And if you're like me, this is probably when you realized that this episode is probably gonna end up being some sort of a dream. Watching this, I was definitely having memories of when Data started dreaming and Troy was a cake for some reason. The Doctor goes back to sickbay to figure out why he would be bleeding even though it's not in his program to do so. And he realizes that the tricorders are registering him as a real person. It's very interesting that he's being registered as a person, but B'Elanna wasn't. Anyway, after the Doctor talks to the ship's computer, he finds that his program simply doesn't exist, implying that for some reason, now he is a real person. When the Doctor asks who's the head medical officer on Voyager, the computer replies, Louis Zimmerman, who we met in Deep Space Nine. He's the scientist, I guess, that created the Doctor's program. And Louis Zimmerman in Deep Space Nine was of course also played by Robert Picardo, because apparently everyone in the Star Trek universe is such a narcissist that they can't make a computer or a hologram that doesn't look exactly like them. Now, to Zimmerman's defense, he was gonna create another hologram program that looked like Bashir, but that didn't end up happening. And it's kind of weird because the Doctor is surprised that Zimmerman looks exactly like him.
He looks a lot like me. In fact, he looks exactly like me. Computer, is this me?
But it seems like that's something that the Doctor would actually already know. Anyway, the Doctor figures out, according to the computer, he is Louis Zimmerman. At this point, I think the episode loses its pretenses that what's happening on screen is actually real. Because it's at this point that Janeway, B'Elanna, Neelix, and the Kazon from the mess hall all just walk right into sickbay. And it's just kind of weird that they all just walk in at one time. Janeway says that they're bringing the Kazon in so that the Doctor can run scans on him while the rest of the crew interrogates the Kazon. But what's weird is that the Kazon just kind of walks in with a blank expression with the rest of the crew.
Doctor, we've almost got the warp core back online, but we need to know where the crew was taken.
I'm not sure. This may have been a intentional direction because they wanted it to start feeling like a dream. And I know that the idea is that the Kazon is kind of taken prisoner. I think we even see for a second that B'Elanna does have a phaser pointed at him. But it's still weird because there's just no sort of anger or anything on the Kazon's face. So I don't know if that's what they were going for. They just wanted it to feel weird, so they had the Kazon, blank expression. Or if the actor just wasn't directed very well. I'm not sure. Nonetheless, I think the episode kind of suffers from it. Like, the Kazon, he should have just looked at least mildly irritated at his predicament, but he just walked right in, completely neutral. It would have improved this moment a lot, I think, just for him to have some sort of facial expression or make a grunt as he walks in, anything. Anyway, the Doctor realizes that no one else's life signs are being picked up by his tricorders. Janeway says that it could be a problem with the remote holographic projectors just confusing the system. That's very silly. It's a huge stretch to think that the holographic projectors would make every computer on the ship think that the Doctor's a real person and everyone else is not. But what happens next is actually pretty fun. Janeway tells the ship to shut down all holographic programs just for everyone on the ship besides the Doctor to disappear.
Computer, shut down all holographic systems throughout the ship.
And this is when this episode gets interesting again. At least in my opinion. Because as I watch this episode, I'm sort of pulled in and out of it as it goes. One moment, it's a very interesting idea for an episode, and the next, it starts feeling like it was just a dream all along episode. Which is kind of a cliche that I tend to, more and more as life goes on, just be tired of. Also, side note, you don't care about this. I just want to mention it because I want to. Wizard of Oz? So many people think Wizard of Oz is a dream because that's how the movie works. That's never how it worked in the book. And I think the story is a lot more interesting in the book because in the book it actually happens. Whereas in the movie, they just sort of, made it all a dream, which, like I said, that method of ending a story just is a lot less fun to me. The story already didn't happen because that's what fiction is, but now you're saying in the fictional universe the movie also didn't happen? Give me a break. Anyway, back to the show. Broccoli shows up.
Doctor, am I glad to see you. Can you see me?
Of course I can see you. Who are you?
And Barclay, is a character that I have mixed feelings on. And I did do a video where I talk about him and his first episode a little bit, it was sort of comparing the difference in how modern Doctor Who treated their socially awkward incel character and how Star Trek Next Generation treated this character, Barclay, who also is kind of a socially awkward incel character. Anyway, I think that episode is pretty good, and it's like, I think the third most popular video on the channel at this point. So I would recommend checking it out. I spent a lot of work on it. It is an older one, but I remember being happy with it. Needless to say, Barclay is a character that I feel they do some really good things with. I mostly like the episode that he first appears in. There's weird, creepy parts of it, too.
Let me help you relax.
I'd like that.
I knew you would.
And it's kind of weird and creepy in a way I don't think the show was aware it was being weird and creepy, but that's a topic for a different day. But anyway, it is just cool that Barclay, a character that was introduced in Next Generation, is here in Voyager. I love how all of the Star Trek shows from this era do a good job of making it feel like one connected universe, you know, as well as referencing Louis Zimmerman, who of course showed up in Deep Space Nine, but him in Deep Space Nine was kind of, you know, a carryover from him in Voyager, I think. Anyway, Barclay tells the Doctor that Voyager, everything that's happened in the show thus far, was just a program that Louis Zimmerman was running in his holodeck. According to Barclay, the program was messed up by some sort of radiation surge. This also explains why Zimmerman thinks that he was just a program because the radiation was affecting his brain. I do like this idea. I just wish we could actually buy into that the Doctor is actually Zimmerman. But seeing as this is episode 3 of season 2 of the show, they aren't gonna make everything else that has happened thus far just not real. TV shows, especially Star Trek TV shows, have plots like this a lot, where they try and suggest maybe everything that's happened wasn't even real at all. And I understand the appeal of that plot. The only problem is in a TV show, it actually can't be fake, because they would never retcon away seasons of TV shows like that. Barclay tells the Doctor if he destroys the ship, that is the only way that the program can be shut down. And this just reminds me of, like, that weird face out in outer space that was trying to get Riker and Picard to destroy the Enterprise in Next Generation. And I should say, that's not a complaint about this episode. I really don't mind TV shows reusing similar ideas, but, you know, changing them a little bit, taking them in a little bit of different directions. I don't have a problem with similar plots, as long as they don't break continuity or anything like that. Here, I'm just simply saying what I was thinking watching this episode. I was like, oh, trying to get the character to destroy the ship? That sounds familiar. There's a fun moment where Barclay has the Doctor scan the room, and it comes out reading on the tricorder like the Doctor is indeed in a holodeck. And the Doctor says, well, you could be manipulating these readings. I feel like this is a sort of fun commentary on how you can kind of logic yourself out of any viewpoint. Maybe not so much because the Doctor was right here. It reminds me of something C.S. Lewis said in his book, The Four Loves. It goes something like, if there were a invisible cat in that chair, then the chair would look empty. But the chair does look empty, so therefore there's an invisible cat in it. The logic doesn't exactly hold up, but the lack of proof can be made to sound like actual proof. It's sort of the conspiracy theorist mindset. Sometimes the lack of evidence for something can be logicked away into being evidence of something. Now, if we use things like Occam's razor, we could say simplest explanation is the right one. It doesn't look like there's a cat in the chair, therefore there is not. Unfortunately, though, you throw something like a holodeck in the mix, or for more of a modern scenario, AI-generated photorealistic images. And then we don't know if anything's real at all because it's so easy to fake evidence, which is sort of scary. And I think that's kind of what we see in this episode. Because on the one hand, the Doctor is kind of being a little bit silly, but on the other hand, how could you know what's real or fake in the Star Trek universe when anything can be created on a holodeck? Barclay thinks of kind of a clever way to convince the Doctor. And this is when we get to my favorite part of the episode, because Barclay turns the program back to its beginning, and we find ourselves in episode 1 again.
There has to be some way to convince you.
Oh, I know. I'll be right back.
Are you the emergency medical hologram?
And it's so fun. I love it when TV shows, either through time travel or other means, find a way to revisit prominent moments in the show's past. Or Next Gen, where the final episode actually is kind of happening at the same time as the first episode. Kind of. Excellent finale, by the way. Anyway, this episode does something similar. When Barclay reappears, the Doctor asks if he programmed Tom Paris to be so annoying, to which Barclay says, no, actually, I programmed Tom Paris. Which, for some reason, that makes a lot of sense. And after the Doctor deletes Tom Paris and Harry Kim from the program, the Doctor tells Barclay that his credibility is rising. The Doctor walks into engineering, where he meets Janeway moments before she's teleported down to the planet from the pilot. And after a little bit of an exchange between the Doctor and Janeway, she tries to put Barclay and the Doctor under arrest, and the Doctor starts reading off the Wikipedia plot synopsis for the first episode.
Are you two responsible for bringing us here?
Actually, no. The array you discovered is controlled by an entity you will come to know as the Caretaker, or Banjo Man. He's actually an alien life form who is caring for a species known as the Ocampa who live nearby.
Enough!
To buy himself time so Janeway won't be able to arrest him before she gets teleported away. There's a bit of a weird moment. The Doctor, he destroys the holo emitters in the ship, and he expects that to make the ship disappear if it's a hologram. I don't know why he would think that. I mean, to me, it seems pretty obvious that if he's in a ship on the holodeck, it's the holodeck creating the ship, not the holo emitters on the holodeck ship. Which is basically what Barclay explains to him. And once Barclay finally convinces the Doctor to destroy the ship, Chakotay pops up. Chakotay says that it is indeed a holographic projection, but not the one he thinks it is. He says that everything around him is being created by his program. It seems that there was a radiation surge, which created a feedback loop between the holodeck and the Doctor's program. seemingly projecting the Doctor's memories and thoughts and such into the holodeck program. I like this explanation, by the way. Chakotay tells the Doctor that if he destroys the program, the Doctor will be destroyed with it. This paints an interesting picture where if Barclay is right and he doesn't destroy the ship, he'll die. But if Chakotay is right and he does destroy the ship, he'll die. So the Doctor has to figure out who he actually trusts. The Doctor falls to the ground because of head pain, either being caused by the radiation that's affecting his brain or the feedback loop, depending on who you believe is telling the truth. And then Kes shows up. Apparently, she's Zimmerman's wife, because apparently everyone on the ship has to be attracted to Kes. Tom Paris, Neelix, and now it seems to be implied also the Doctor have to have romantic feelings towards her. It's a weird choice. I don't really know why they used it. I think they might come back to the idea that maybe the Doctor has some attraction towards Kes like once or twice. Barclay asks the Doctor, how would you rather think of yourself? As a human or as a holographic medical tool? We'll get back to that part for the philosophy and moral part of the video. The Doctor uncomfortably tells Kes that she's beautiful before waking up in the medical bay, seemingly talking to the real Kes. The Doctor asks, who is this Barclay guy, if everything was just created by his program? To which Harry Kim replies that Barclay was the one responsible for programming the Doctor's person skills. I think this is a bit of a joke, because Barclay's character, the main thing of his character is that he doesn't have good person skills. So the joke being that him being the one responsible for the Doctor's person skills, and that's why the Doctor doesn't necessarily have the best person skills either, which is kind of funny. Now, I think if this is where the episode ended, it would be better, but I guess they just had a few more minutes of runtime that they had to fill up somehow. So Kes starts acting like the Doctor's wife again, and I'm not talking about the TARDIS or River song. That was a Doctor Who joke for you. And then we get an admittedly well-shot scene reminiscent of Alice in Wonderland, where everything that the Doctor has sort of dreamed up to this point is all combining in this one moment. And although the scene is shot really well, it kind of just makes me roll my eyes and be like, really? We're still doing this? And that's when the Doctor finally actually does come to reality in the holodeck, and I just have to roll my eyes at the fake out, he came back to reality. Again, I think probably maybe the episode just had to be a little bit longer than it was, so they were like, oh, I guess we'll do a fake out where he thinks he's awake, but really he's still in the program. I think the episode would be better if they cut it off, though. Now, that scene is, again, shot really well. We have the cameras sort of following the Doctor as he runs through the sick bay. It's just a lot more dynamic shots than we usually see in this particular show. So it does look nice. It's just for the plot. I don't really like that moment. Just on a side note, I like the TNG holodeck a lot better than the Voyager one. It just looks nicer. I think Voyager was sort of on the end of when we were getting nice, clean, homey spaceship sets. But anyway, it's just my personal preference that I like the TNG holodeck set better. That's not really important. Let's talk about the character of Barclay. In Barclay's first episode, he's used to represent people who get sucked into fantasy. And that first episode, while it's not the best, it definitely has some uncomfortable moments. It does paint a good picture of how to get someone who's obsessed with fantasy and kind of bring them back into the real world. And to show them how much they have to offer to the real world. So whether this was an intentional choice on whoever wrote this episode or not, Barclay is the perfect character to say this line here.
Lewis, how would you rather think of yourself? As a real person, with a real life, with a family that loves you, or as some hologram that exists in a sick bay on a starship, lost in deep space?
And if we can take away a moral from this episode, I think it comes from Chakotay right here.
This isn't about what you want. This is about what you are. Just because you're made of projected light and energy doesn't mean you're any less real than someone made of flesh and blood. It doesn't matter what you're made of. What matters is who you are. You're our friend, and we want you back.
You may wish that you were Batman or James Bond. Maybe you want to live on Jupiter or Middle-earth. And you can spend your days just trying to chase after fantasy. And, well, a little bit of fantasy can be fine, for sure. Sometimes you have to come down from Jupiter, because we need you on Earth. So basically, the point that I'm trying to get at here is that who you are is so much more valuable than who you want to be. Your fantasies and your desires can say a lot about who you are. In reality, what the people around you want is they want you, they need you. And you can spend your entire life wishing that you were someone else. Or you can actually step up and embrace who you actually are, and you can give the world something. Just because you're not Batman doesn't mean you can't be a hero.
Just because you're made of projected light and energy doesn't mean you're any less real than someone made of flesh and blood.
People like Andrew Tate try to sell young men on pursuing their fantasy. Your fantasy is on having money and women and cars, and here's how you do that. Here's how you have to carry yourself if you want women, and who you have to be. And here's some things you can do to make yourself more attractive. And sure, there is some things that you can do that can be helpful. I'm not saying you should never try and improve, just please don't let your identity be something you put on thinking that it will put you in the place you want to be. I think what makes a man, it's not how you look, it's not how you talk, it's where's your heart, what's important to me. Tell me what you love, and I'll tell you who you are.
What matters is who you are. You're our friend, and we want you back.
What's important about you is who you are. It's not what you drive, it's not how you present yourself. I agree with Riker in First Contact when he said,
"Don't try to be a great man, just be a man. And let history make its own judgments."
And the Bible also has something to say about what I'm talking about here. This is in Proverbs 28:19, and it says, "The one who works his land will have plenty of food, but the one who chases fantasies will have his fill of poverty." So work your land, make your life as pretty as you can, and stop chasing after someone else's. After all, in the words of Styx, so if you think your life is complete confusion because you never win the game, just remember it's a grand illusion, because deep inside we're all the same. So, how much do I like this episode? To be honest, I'm kind of conflicted. On the one hand, I think there's a lot of really fun, really cool ideas in this episode. However, it also feels a little bit made up as it goes along. I kind of wish that the episode was written more like a mystery, where you could actually figure out what was going on based on clues it gives you. But unfortunately, this episode at parts kind of starts to feel like Alice in Wonderland, where it's just random things happening because it's not real. I think there is a foundation for a really good episode of Star Trek here, but overall, I think it just doesn't live up to that potential. There's a lot of good ideas. The good ideas just kind of fall flat on their face. With that being said, though, I have to give it grace because I know with TV shows, especially TV shows when this came out, they had to get scripts out really fast in order to film the episodes in time. So, I don't know. I like the episode fine. I've been able to watch it 3 different times and enjoyed it all 3 times. However, it's not one of the great episodes of Star Trek. It's not one I would recommend to a friend, especially a non-Star Trek watching friend. I would like to hear, if you've watched this episode, on a scale from 1 to 10, where would you rank it? And click the link on the screen for more Voyager reviews. Until next time, don't forget to brush your teeth. Bye-bye.